from the deepest, darkest recesses of Dangerous Nerds headquarters, Keith Moncrief and Gerry Kissel.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pop Culture Minefield. That's Keith, and way over there is my old friend Josh. And Keith was going to say it's me, Gerry, but everybody knows who the hell I am. So anyway, we're going to talk to Josh. Josh, I've known him for 21 years. I was introduced to Josh by Mr. Bruce Campbell because I was doing an interview with him, and he said something to the effect of, "Yeah, you need to meet my friend Josh." And I'm like, "All right, fuck it." And I ended up on a 4-hour phone call with Josh, talking about movies. And that's been our relationship ever since.
So, Josh, let me ask you, how did a man like you wind up going from Detroit to Hollywood? I mean, how does one make that transition? And was it an easy transition?
No, it was a very difficult transition. And in the course of 25, 30 years, I never did fully make the transition. I am a Detroiter and remain one. But I moved there when I was 17 and moved back when I was 18 and then moved back when I was 20 and then moved back when I was 22. And I kept that up my whole life until I was 45 and actually moved to Oregon, so that I lived right up the street from Bruce Campbell, my old buddy. And I lasted 1 year there and then moved back to Detroit 18 years ago. And this is where I've been ever since.
Wow. Midwest is the best.
Yeah, it's so funny because I did the artwork for his book, Leaving Hollywood. Josh has written several books, and he's just, because we're friends, if he needs something from me, I just like, all right, I'll do it. Fuck it. And Leaving Hollywood's a good read.
Going
Hollywood.
Going.
Right. And the cover, hell, I'll just look it up real quick.
Well, let me ask. Now, obviously, like a lot of people that have gone to Hollywood, you obviously had many people that you looked up to, stars or films that you really enjoyed. Was any of that also part of you, I mean, in your mind, getting out there, or were you someone that just decided that you needed to go out there and just set the whole thing on fire? I mean, just break out.
I wanted to be part of Hollywood. I wanted to be part of filmmaking. That was everything to me. Mm-hmm. And when I got there, it was the Hollywood I wanted to be part of. And I have suspected that screen changed here. That's all right, I guess.
Yeah, I'm showing the book cover.
You put up Going Hollywood. Right. Not Leaving Hollywood, Going Hollywood. I've suspected any number of times that my arrival in Hollywood is what changed it into the place where I didn't want to be anymore.
Elaborate on that.
When I got there in 1976, that was a particularly good year for movies, and movies had been really terrific throughout the early to mid 70s, and you had movies like Rocky, Network, All the President's Men. The movies were really, really good, and those were the movies I wanted to be a part of. And within that year, that first year I was there, and I was at the very first matinee premiere showing of Star Wars at the Chinese Theater.
Gromit, yeah.
I saw it the very first chance anyone got to see that movie. I saw it at noon the day it opened at the
25th.
Chinese. And Hollywood has never recovered. And the Hollywood I loved so much died that day.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Jaws is the advent of the blockbuster, but Star Wars made it concrete for the studios, and it changed films forever.
Yeah, it gave them an algorithm of, if you make science fiction comic book movies and put a lot of money into the special effects, there's a pretty good chance you're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
What is interesting to me is that 2 years earlier was the first giant summer blockbuster, Jaws, but that could not be quantified, because you couldn't just make another movie like Jaws. Jaws is a good movie, and it's not a quantifiable movie, whereas Star Wars was. And we are continuing here 40 years later, seeing the residue and the residue of residue, which is called residuum of that.
Yeah. Yeah, because you and I've had a lot of talks about the end of movies. I mean, we just don't get movies like Papillon with Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman anymore.
Or Dog Day Afternoon.
Or Dog Day Afternoon.
French Connection. Bullet. Bullet's one of my favorites. So.
Yeah.
There's so many.
It goes on and on.
Oh, yeah. And Josh has a great list. If you go to his website, it's beckerfilms.com. You can actually look at the list of films that he has seen that he felt was worth watching. Plus, he writes his reviews over there. I'm not the only movie critic. And he loves to smoke. You remind me of John Ford in that way.
Yes, Ford, if he couldn't smoke, would chew on a handkerchief.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Did he?
Yes.
Wow.
John Ford was something else.
Yeah, he was.
Well, because you were part of the Evil Dead films, I'm going to go ahead and ask Brittany's question, who couldn't be here today. So, question number 1 from Brittany is, Josh, with working on the Evil Dead films, did you ever expect them to be such an iconic role in the horror genre?
No.
Okay.
Well, let me ask. What horror films had you yourself enjoyed prior to making that movie?
The Exorcist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, good one.
There were quite a few good horror films. But we actually thought, as we were shooting Evil Dead in 1979/80, that we had missed the horror boat, that the independent horror scene had already passed. And it turns out we were wrong.
Well, you guys created something really unique, because I don't think I'd ever seen anything even remotely like that prior to the premiere of Evil Dead.
Sam had his own vision. He certainly likes to move the camera. As far as the story goes, I mean, the story is not unique in any way.
Yeah.
So it's just how Sam shot it.
Yeah. It's early 70s horror, early to mid 70s horror. I mean, it was either a cool take or it was really over the top. Usually B-level type stuff. Like, you would have things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but you'd also have things like The Devil's Rain. So Hollywood knew how to play within that a little bit, But what you guys did was just amazing.
Well, going back, did you work on, because I've never talked to you about this. Did you ever work on the original trial film Cabin in the Woods that he made? I think he shot
Within
that
the
16,
Woods.
Within the Woods. He shot on 16, as I recall.
Super 8.
Super 8.
And no, I did not work on it. I was out in LA for the second time when that was shot. That one came at the tail end of a real productive period of shooting Super 8, where between us we had shot 10 fairly ambitious Super 8 movies. And I felt that a couple of mine were pretty good. And so I went back out to Hollywood thinking that would get me into the studios. I was wrong again. And I came back to Detroit just as they were premiering Within the Woods.
So perfect timing. What did you do mostly on the first one?
On Evil Dead, not Within the Woods.
Right, Evil Dead.
I was hired to be the cinematographer, which I had been for a number of Sam's early Super 8s, but in a contract dispute previous to leaving for Tennessee to shoot Evil Dead, which was, they had promised me $50 a week. And when it came time to sign the contract, they had dropped it to $40 a week. I told them that I would not work as a cinematographer for $40 a week. It had to be $50. And Sam said, well, then fine. We're only paying you 40 and you can be a production assistant.
Oh.
And I believe he thought I would quit right there. And I said, fine. Okay, then I'll be a production assistant. And we went down and shot the movie, and the entire camera department was Tim Philo, who had been hired as cameraman. And now he was stuck with all the lighting and camera. And Tim gave it his best. And we fell further and further and further behind. And the movie was supposed to be shot in 6 weeks. And at the end of 6 weeks, I would estimate we had 25, possibly 30% of the movie shot.
Wow.
And the entire cast and crew, who had signed 6-week contracts, all took that seriously and left. And thus, there were 5 of us left in Tennessee: Sam Raimi, Rob Tappert, Bruce Campbell, a guy named David Goodman, and myself.
Wow.
And at that point, I was asked to not only take over the lighting, but take over the sound recording. So for the next 5.5 weeks, I did all the lighting and all the sound recording.
For $40 a week.
And $40. They didn't up the rate.
No.
And I told them my one rule was that nobody touches lights but me. Because poor Tim Philo, it had become a communal project of people just pushing lights in and pushing lights in. And then Rob Tappert, the producer, would take a light and aim it directly into the actor's face and say, they have to be able to see it at the drive-in. And so when I took over the lighting, I said, nobody touches lights but me. And I will have this thing lit 100 times faster. You will never wait for me. I'll be waiting for you. And that's when, you'll excuse me here, where the movie suddenly developed a look. And I began to use the most minimum amount of lighting. And I would take one 500 watt or 1,000 watt light and shove it right underneath Bruce Campbell's face and get a reading and go, okay, we're ready to go. And they were all like, what? Well, what? And so the lighting started to take 5 to 10 minutes. And then Sam would screw around with the camera. He was operator. And he would screw around, and I was doing all the assistant camera because Sam didn't know how to load or anything. So I was loading the camera and taking care of the film stock and doing all of that. And Sam operated. And then he'd screw around for a half an hour or 40 minutes getting the shot he wanted, which were always good shots. And then we started to move along. And that's when, out of pure necessity, Sam rewrote the script so that there was a long section of just Bruce Campbell in the cabin by himself. Oh, it's me. It's me.
Yeah, I found an old picture of you.
And so suddenly the whole movie changed because the cast was gone. And that whole giant sequence of Bruce all by himself came out of pure necessity. And that's when I got to show off my lighting. And I'm very pleased. And then we probably left Tennessee with 60% of the movie shot. And then we did the rest of it over the course of the next year. We picked up all the rest of the shots either here in Detroit or in Gladwin, Michigan, where Bruce Campbell's parents had a cabin, or Rob Tappert's parents had a cabin as well, summer house, and we shot there. So there was a lot more shooting that went on over the next year.
I posted
and
the
I did
picture
the
there
lighting
for you.
on that. I did.
No,
Those are foggers and stuff.
that's you.
Horrible pain in the ass.
That's you and Sam all bearded up.
Yep. Way back.
Wow.
Back in the day.
Well, now,
Yeah, 40 years ago.
oh, yeah, that was 40 years. Yeah, I need to take a
Yeah.
moment there for a moment.
I was when I
Wow. Now, had you ever made a movie like Evil Dead before? I mean, had you made horror films before, prior to Evil Dead?
No. What we mainly did, we made a lot of Super 8 movies, and just about all of them were slapstick comedy. I had branched out a little bit and made a Hitchcock-like movie called Holding It, which was about an 18-minute movie. The wrong man premise that Hitchcock used many times. But for the most part, we made slapstick comedies.
Cool. With a so slapstick comedies, or I think I remember sort of either original stuff or just remaking stuff that you guys seem to really like. Three Stooges, various other things.
Well, that was Scott Spiegel, particularly. We all loved the Three Stooges, but Scott was obsessed with the Three Stooges. And what he would do was remake Three Stooges episodes. And Sam and Scott started to make more original slapstick stuff. And then I was doing my thing, and then Scott and I began to do more original slapstick stuff, like The Blind Waiter.
Yeah, I was about to ask about that one.
Go ahead, ask.
No, that's what I was going to ask. If you're such a dick. See, that's why he and I get along, Keith, because he's just as dickish as I am, so I enjoy it. But your relationship with Sam, and through the films lasted, but you continued working with them even into the 90s when they transferred over to television.
Yes, I did. I worked on first Hercules and then Xena, and I was the only director to make it through all 6 seasons of Xena.
Wow.
And it's been debated, but I know for a fact that he wrote the Joxer song.
Oh, well, I wrote the first part of it.
Somebody else got full.
Oh, look, there's the cover of one of my books.
Yep.
That's yeah, yes, I said to Ted, you should have a song in this show. And it goes like this. Joxer the mighty roams through the countryside, never needs a place to hide. And that's about all I had. And I said, Ted, I leave it up to you to come up with more verses. And Ted took that seriously and came up with about 6 more verses.
Oh my God.
With Gabby as a sidekick, carrying a little. And then when it got into post-production, Joe LaDuca was so taken with the composer that he added 3 or 4 more verses, which go up on the end titles. And when the smoke cleared, the song was by Ted Raimi and Joe LaDuca. So
wow.
But
now this is a book that every filmmaker should have.
yeah, it was
right here.
Yes. Yes.
It's a very good book. I picked up a lot of shit from that book. I'll tell you.
Well, listen. What?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go. You go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask. Having, traveled back and forth, Hollywood, Detroit, made movies, mainly in Detroit. What was it like making the transition and going from here to New Zealand to work on Hercules and Xena?
It was good. It was a wonderful place to shoot. It's a lovely country. They have very good crew people. Don't know. Peter Jackson, who lives in Wellington, New Zealand, where he made the Lord of the Rings movies, he initially had a special effects company called Weta. And for everyone's information, Weta is a giant grasshopper that only lives in New Zealand. And he did his company did special effects on the first 2 or 3 Hercules movies.
Wow.
And so I worked with his guys on Peter Jackson's guys on Hercules. And then he together Lord of the Rings, and he lucked out in a big way because between Hercules and Xena, we had every good crew person in New Zealand. And right as about to start shooting, Hercules got canceled after 5 seasons. And the entire Hercules crew became the Lord of the Rings crew. And that's why when I watched Lord of the Rings, it looked like Hercules to me.
Wow. Wow. Oh. Well, in let's see now. That was probably, what was that? Was that 6, 7 years down there for you working on both Xena and Hercules?
8.
8. Wow. Amazing. I love both those shows. I mean, just a personal, take. I love both those shows. A lot of fun. And
was very. It was 1993 to 2001.
Wow.
And everyone was very surprised when Xena became 3 times as big a hit as Hercules.
Yeah. Still fun. Still so much fun.
The person who was most surprised and most upset was Kevin Sorbo.
I can see that.
It's like, what the hell? I started this. Kevin's a really nice guy. We Keith and I met him and did a little interview with him.
Yeah.
Really sweet guy. I'll tell you that.
Very much so. Very easy.
Yeah, that's what I
was
say.
on the airplane. He and I came down the same day in 1993, and actually I stayed longer than him, but after I started off as second unit director, and I did 2 of the 5 pilot features, and then I was the main unit director of the 5th of the 5 features.
Wow.
And then I became second unit director again. They hired me to clean up all the missing parts of all 5 movies. And to Kevin Sorbo's chagrin, his contract lasted a couple weeks longer, and Rob Tappert, the producer, made Kevin stay to the end of his contract. And so as I shot second unit, I had Kevin Sorbo for second unit, which you never have the lead actor for second unit.
Wow.
And Kevin was pretty put out about that. He hadn't been back in America in a long time, and he missed football and basketball and all kinds of stuff. And I recall at the very end there, I said to him, Rob Tappert says this looks like it's going to get picked up as a series. And Kevin said, yeah, I've been in about 5 pilots and none of them ever got picked up, so I have no hope.
Well, you know, I want to show some pictures here real quick. That's you and Josh. You and Sam. They're in Detroit for, was it The Book of the Dead? Was the title then?
Right. Before it got retitled Evil Dead.
And then there's another one.
That was the very first.
How was your guys' relationship, not just personally, but professionally?
Yep. I grew up around the block from Sam. We were at the same bus stop. I've known Sam since I was 9 years old and he was 8.
Wow.
And Ted Raimi had just been born. And I was very good friends with Sam's older brother, Ivan.
The doctor.
And Sam, to me, he's a year younger than me, and I considered him nothing but a pain in the ass. And I foretold his future, but he was utterly obsessed with comic books, but specifically Spider-Man. And he had a statue of Spider-Man above his bed. And Ivan and I we would come home after school and say, take all your Spider-Man comics and stuff and get out of here. And I didn't take Sam seriously at all until we were about 17, 18 years old and began making Super 8 movies together. And we had a lot of fun making those Super 8s for several years. And then we went and did Evil Dead, and I found him to be just about the most difficult guy I've ever worked for.
Wow.
And he hasn't changed. He's a very difficult director to work for. I would say because he has his vision, he's going to get it, and he doesn't care how long it takes or what anyone has to go through to achieve his vision.
Wow.
Would you consider that a good trait for a director?
Not if you want to stay on budget.
Now,
Wow.
Going back to your direction on Xena.
Sam doesn't give it.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go for it, Josh.
Oh, no. You ask your question.
Okay. So now I'm distracted. What the fuck did I want? I've got ADD. Going back to Xena and Hercules days.
Directing Xena.
Yeah. What I liked to, when I first met you and I would hear about your work over there was that you would always come in under schedule and you paid attention to budget, which is, I think, why they liked you so much. Not just that you were good.
Yes. Crucial in television. And I think it's crucial in low budget filmmaking. Clearly, Sam did not. And where we are. But he took the $150,000 budget of Evil Dead and ran it up to about $550,000.
Wow. That's a little over doubling. That's like that's even more than quadrupling. That's like, wow. That's a huge jump.
Yes.
Whereas like the budget on Running Time that I did with Bruce Campbell.
There's more reality.
What?
Oh, I was just segueing over to Running Time. The work that you did on that and keeping it under budget, and you shot that in how many days was it? 10 days?
10.
Which is amazing because it was the first film to go back to what Hitchcock had done, well, kind of did, with Rope, which is shooting in real time. The amount of time that takes place while you're sitting in the theater watching it is the amount of time that takes place in the story. Carl, oh my God, I can't remember his last name. Matuchek?
Yeah.
Matushka.
Matushka.
Matushka? Okay.
And he's going to hook up with his old buddy played by Jeremy Roberts, and gets out of prison and goes straight into doing a heist and gets laid in between.
What made you decide to film that in black and white?
Because if you're doing the big long takes and you have to go from inside to outside, then you have a big exposure change. And on film, color film, you would have to put filters on or take filters off. And in black and white, that wasn't a problem. And I thought it did the subject matter.
Yeah, because it's the classic heist film. A throwback to Stanley Kubrick with what was that movie called?
The Killing.
The Killing. Yeah, I love that movie. Jeez, I have it on my hard drive. Every once in a while, I pull that damn movie out and watch it. It's like because you even kind of poked fun at Quentin Tarantino for making a heist movie that doesn't have a heist in it. And he clearly stole from two films, one being The Killing, and the other being a John Woo film I forget the name of, with the guns, the crossing guns shit. But I like the fact that you're one of the few people.
The Killer.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you are one of the few people that took Quentin Tarantino to task over his shitty writing.
Quentin Tarantino had nothing to do with what I did.
No. I was talking about his movie. But I like that because Josh used to work for Film Threat magazine, and he interviewed Quentin and kind of he took him to the mat.
Well,
that was on the set of Reservoir Dogs.
Which is the movie
Wow.
I'm poking fun at, because he fucked up doing a heist movie by I'm gonna make a movie about a heist, but I'm not gonna show the heist because man, I'm a really good director and writer.
People like his stuff.
Yeah, he's got a legion of fans.
But
I would indeed.
You were gonna say something else, Josh?
I was the only person who interviewed him on the set of Reservoir Dogs because nobody else on the planet had ever heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd already known him for a couple of years. So when and I was writing for Film Threat at the time, and I kept coming with new stories to write. And because I knew Quentin and I knew he was shooting a feature film in LA and I was living in LA and Film Threat was published in LA, I said, why don't I go out and interview him on the set? And Chris Gore, the editor of Film Threat, was totally into that. And so I was the only person to interview him on the set of that movie. And as I say, I had known him for a couple of years, not well. And he was directing a movie with a cast. Suddenly he, in my opinion, was acting incredibly pretentious. And I was aghast. And in case, I was just a terrible interviewer. And I he kept saying things that were so ridiculously stupid to me that I kept going, "You're kidding, right? I mean, you can't mean that. You just can't mean that." And I mean, as an example, he said, John McTiernan, who had recently directed Die Hard, was the best director working. And I wouldn't get mean that. Not when there's so Stanley Kubrick is still alive. There's all kinds of people who are better than John. My phone's ringing here. Wait. Excuse me. Can you cut this out?
Yeah, I can cut it out.
Hello? Hello? Good, there's nobody there. Much better.
I might not cut that out. I think that's funny. But I always appreciated the fact that you.
So anyway,
you took him to task.
Yeah, well, I thought, hey, this is Film Threat, and why should I mince words? And he was horrified, utterly horrified. And I guess it's the first interview he ever gave, and he was horrified that I would actually report what he actually said. And the interview is very truncated. I interviewed him for a couple of hours.
Wow.
And I have looked for that tape a couple of times, but I've never been able to find it.
Wow.
Oh, man, I'd love to hear that whole thing. Oh, my God.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I guess let's wrap up this. This will be our first interview with you. I'd like to have you on as a regular because you're so much fun, Josh. I mean, you and I have been friends. Well, I want to show this picture.
Well, thank
I took that photo of you in 1997 on your birthday in Chicago. We went into a delicatessen restaurant that was close to the Underground Film Festival because you were showing Running Time there. You're wearing the original shirt for the title of the film, which was Blood Money, before you changed it to Running Time. And I ordered you a cheesecake for your birthday, and you don't even fucking like cheesecake. I'm like, you're the first human being I've ever met that doesn't like cheesecake. And I think it was the first time I ever said, you're a terrible Jew. But you've tolerated me for 20-some years, and I appreciate it, Josh. You're a good friend.
Yes, 24 years, I guess now.
Yeah. And absolutely one of my favorite people to talk to. I'm so antisocial or asocial, whatever you say, but I always look forward to yours and my phone calls. Keith, too. Keith and I do the same thing. We should do a 3-way phone call someday where there's no delay. Just to talk, because Keith is such a fact totem when it comes to film and television. And
well, it's part of the weirdness of what I bring. So
it's the one thing he's got.
It is. It's the only thing I got.
But Josh, I want to thank you for coming and doing the show for us.
Can say we've waited.
What was that?
Nobody can say Keith and I have wasted our lives.
No.
Well, except my wife. She's got a lot of comments for me.
Oh, she's a nerd too. She loves this stuff.
Oh yeah, but that didn't stop her from busting my balls. So,
Well, with that, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up this one. Do you think we could do this again in maybe a couple of weeks, Josh?
Yeah, sure.
I would love to. Actually, I want to plan to do more live stuff, and I would love to go live with you and just see what happens. We can broadcast now.
Maybe we can even work this lag time thing.
Yeah, get the timing going. But what I love about this service, StreamYard, they allow us, when you have a paid account, to simultaneously broadcast to Facebook, and that's where we get a lot of reaction, is on Facebook. Because we have a big following on Facebook, the two of us. We have about, I think you have about 2,000 people, Keith.
yeah, well, 2,000 people that will at least acknowledge my existence.
And I have the regular group of, I like to refer to them as my friendly asshole friends that like to come on and interact and say shit. And inevitably go, hey, where's my art? All right. Thanks again, Josh. Great stories. And anyway, that's Josh Becker, filmmaker, writer, screenwriter, and author, and friend of mine. And of course, this other guy here next to me, that's Keith. And I'm Gerry. And this is Pop Culture Minefield. And we just talked about some nerd stuff. And with that,
hey guys, thanks for watching Pop Culture Minefield. If you've enjoyed the show, please remember to like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell icon. Remember, you can find us at Pop Culture Minefield on both Facebook and Instagram. Thank you again.
Y'all come back now, you hear?